Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Rane Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitanscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vrishavano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 2, entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna, text 24. Manye surān bhāgavatāṁs tri-adhīśe Manye surān bhāgavatāṁs tri-adhīśe saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān Ye saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram Ye saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram aṁse sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Aṁse sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Manye surān bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. Saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān. Ye saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram. Aṁse sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Bolo. Manye surān bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. Saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān. Saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram. Aṁse sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Manye surān bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. Vaishnava. Manye surān bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān. cakṣata tārkṣya-putram. Sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Vaishnavis. Bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān. Saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram. Aṁse sunābhāyudham āpatantam. Manye surān bhagavatāṁs tri-adhīśe. saṁrambha-mārgābhiniviṣṭa-cittān. Saṁyuge cakṣata tārkṣya-putram. Manye, I think, asurān, the demons, Bhagavatam, great devotees, tri-adhīśe, and to the Lord of the threes. Sorry, saṁrambha, enmity. Mārga, by the way of. Abhiniviṣṭa-cittān, absorbed in thought. Ye, those. Saṁyuge, in the fight. Acakṣata, could see. Tārkṣya-putram, Garuḍa, the carrier of the Lord. Aṁse, on the shoulder. Sunābha, the wheel. Āyudham, one who carries the weapon. Āpatantam, coming forward. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is Uddhava speaking. I consider the demons who are inimical toward the Lord to be more than the devotees, because while fighting with the Lord, absorbed in thoughts of enmity, they are able to see the Lord carried on the shoulder of Garuḍa, the son of tārkṣya, Kaśyapa, and carrying the wheeled weapon in his hand. Purport. The asuras who fought against the Lord face to face got salvation due to their being killed by the Lord. This salvation of the demons is not due to their being devotees of the Lord. It is because of the Lord's causeless mercy. Anyone who is slightly in touch with the Lord, somehow or other, is greatly benefited, even to the point of salvation, due to the excellence of the Lord. He's so kind that He awards salvation even to His enemies because they come into contact with Him and are indirectly absorbed in Him by their inimical thoughts. Actually, the demons can never be equal to the pure devotees. But Uddhava was thinking in that way because of his feelings of separation. He was thinking that at the last stage of his life, he might not be able to see the Lord face to face, as did the demons. The fact is that the devotees who are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord in transcendental love are rewarded many hundreds and thousands of times more than the demons by being elevated to the spiritual planets, where they remain with the Lord in eternal blissful existence. The demons and impersonalists are awarded the facility of merging in the Brahmayoti effulgence of the Lord, whereas the devotees are admitted into the spiritual planets. For comparison, one can just imagine the difference between floating in space and residing in one of the planets in the sky. The pleasure of the living entities on the planets is greater than that of those who have no body and who merge with the molecules of the sun's rays. The impersonalists, therefore, are no more favored than the enemies of the Lord. Rather, they are both on the same level of spiritual salvation. Thank you. So, Hare Krishna. We are hearing of the feelings of separation of Uddhava. He is considering the demons even more fortunate than the devotees because they can see the Lord face to face. So this is a conversation that is taking place just after the departure of Lord Krishna. And the theme that runs through this chapter, the chapter title is, anyone remembers? Remembrance of Lord Krishna. So this is the main theme, the main topic of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, for that matter, and of this chapter. And the point is being emphasized again and again that we can associate directly with Krishna by remembering Him. There is no difference between remembering Krishna and being with Him personally. And this is being illustrated in this pastime, and it has been illustrated before already in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, when Arjuna, he was sent to Dwarka because Krishna was not returning from Dwarka, and Yudhishthira was seeing various omens. He was thinking that, something inauspicious must have taken place. And then Arjuna comes very despondent, and Yudhishthira is so much afflicted by the thought of Krishna having departed that he's not able to even ask the question, has Krishna left? The whole chapter is just indicating maybe you are despondent because you didn't give charity to someone who came, you didn't give shelter, so many things. And at the end of the chapter, Yudhishthira said, oh, is it because our dear Lord Krishna has departed? And there Arjuna is remembering Krishna also with deep sentiment, very deep sentiment. And he is actually finding only solace to his pain of Krishna having departed by remembering Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. And now we have the case with Uddhava. Uddhava was a very, very intimate servant and friend of Krishna. He had a very special position, and it is explained in the Nectar of Devotion that Uddhava had gained a reputation of being crazy. And it's described that when Krishna went to recover the Shamantaka jewel, he was feeling such an intense longing for Krishna that he went to the mountains in Dwarka, what they call Raivataka mountains in Dwarka, and he was looking at the clouds, dark clouds, and he was in this way alleviating his deep pain because Krishna was away. And he was offering prayers to the clouds, and he was bowing down to the clouds. So the conversation is taking place between two great devotees, and I think it's worth recalling this because the context in which this conversation is taking place is so wonderful. That Uddhava had, Krishna had told Uddhava to go to Uddhava approached Krishna, and he was very fearful that he understood that Krishna was going to leave the planet. And he requested Krishna, please, take me with you. I don't want to stay here, after you have left. And Krishna said, no, I have a mission for you. I have a service for you. You please go to Badarikashram, and there you can share my message with me, because I couldn't go there. So then Uddhava left for Badarikashram, but then he heard that Krishna had gone to Pravas Kshetra. And he couldn't help himself, but he actually went to Pravas Kshetra, in one sense disobeying the order of the Lord. And he, he happened to be there when Krishna departed. And he was there, Maitreya appeared, all of the, out of the blue, as they say, by the Lord's inconceivable mercy. And then Krishna departed. And just shortly after Krishna departed, then Vidura arrives. And Vidura is also a very intimate servant of Krishna. So intimate and so close that Krishna was thinking of Vidura at the time of leaving this world. We are always trying to remember Krishna or aspiring to remember Krishna at the time of leaving this world. But who was Krishna thinking of when leaving this world? He was thinking of Vidura. And Vidura was also a very intimate advisor of the Pandavas, and just as Uddhava also was giving advice to Krishna on occasions. And Uddhava and Vidura had been away for like 38 years. 38 years on pilgrimage. He had been insulted by Duryodhana, and he took this as a mercy of Krishna, that I can now withdraw from these politics. I don't have to fight on the opposite way with Krishna. And he just went on pilgrimage for 38 years. And he never saw Krishna again. He never saw Krishna again. That was the price that he had to pay. But he got purified by visiting holy temples, and that was his absorption. And then now, after these 38 years, and Uddhava is just seeing the departure of the Lord, they are meeting together. And this is what is happening. This is a conversation. And Vidura asked Krishna, Vidura asked Uddhava to please relate about Krishna. And when Vidura asked Uddhava about it, Uddhava became silent, became for one moment, Prabhupada explains, or the Bhagavatam says, for one moment he closed his eyes and he became totally stunned with ecstatic symptoms. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that actually these ecstatic symptoms went on for like 48 minutes. For 48 minutes, just the remembrance of the Lord, he couldn't even speak. He couldn't, all the ecstatic symptoms were manifested in his body. And this is why Vidura understood that he had attained prema, just by remembering the Lord. And this is our goal. And Bhagavatam is teaching us this, how to remember Krishna. And how are we going to remember Krishna? By learning about him, by knowing, by hearing about him. And the more we hear about him, the more our minds will become captivated. The more we will develop attraction for the Lord. The more we hear, the more the mind becomes attached. The more the mind becomes attached, the more we want to hear. And there is less, you could say, interference of other things going on in our lives. Our advancement in Krishna consciousness can be measured in one sense by how much we are eager to hear about Krishna. Years ago, I was in Vrindavan, and Brahmananda Prabhu, a disciple of Prabhupada, from the very early days, he said that, no one ever asked me what's the most important thing that Prabhupada ever told me. No one asked me this question. He said, do you want to know? You want to know? What was it? He said that, your life is meant for hearing. Your life is meant for hearing. And Bhagavad Gita, what is the verse that Krishna spoke the most in the Bhagavad Gita? No, Prabhupada spoke the most in the Bhagavad Gita. He gave more lectures in? No. 7.1, yeah. Now here, with mind attached to me, how, by hearing about me, you can know me in full. Just by hearing about me. How? With mind attached. So it's not just about hearing about Krishna, but it's the quality of that hearing. And what is the quality of that hearing? Is that we actually have an eagerness, that lolian, which is being expressed here by these devotees. The pain of separation was intolerable. And the only way by which they could, alleviate that pain was by remembering Krishna. But then what was happening? That remembrance was causing pain. And we hear of so many qualities, so many things that Uddhava is remembering about Krishna. Do you remember any of them from the last previous classes? What Uddhava said? Yeah. Okay, that's a very famous verse. In fact, it's so beautiful, we should recite it. Aho vakijam stanakala kutam jigam samjapaya yadapya sattvi leve gatindati uchitam tatonyam kamvadayalum sharanam brajema kamvadayalum sharanam brajema. Translation. Kamba Dayalum Sharanam Brajama. What is that? That's famous. This is one of the most famous verses in the whole Bhagavatam. How can I take shelter of anyone more merciful than him? That's Uddhava's realization. How can I take shelter of anyone more merciful than Krishna? He had realized Krishna is the topmost shelter, is the ashraya tattva. How we realize that? Who are we taking shelter of? at times of difficulty? Are we taking shelter of Krishna? Are we taking shelter of our minds? Sense gratification in many varieties? Who are we taking shelter? But he's saying, aho bakiyam stanakala kutam, that, alas, that Krishna gave mercy to Putana, Baki. Putana was the younger sister of Bakasura. And who was his younger brother? Agasura. What a family, right? And she came with the intention to kill Krishna. You know who Putana was in her previous life? Bali Maharaj's sister, yeah. And when Krishna came to see Bali Maharaj, she was so beautiful that she developed this Vatsalya Bhav. She wanted to, have a relationship with Krishna as a mother. But then when Krishna bound up Bali Maharaj, she became very furious with him, and she wanted to kill him. So in her next life, she had that mixed rasa, She had the sentiments of a mother, but at the same time, she was envious. She wanted to kill him. And Prabhupada, in that purport, he said, I'm going back because it's a theme anyway, but it's a famous sentence in this, and I think we should memorize this. It's from yesterday's class, right? I know, the day before, because it was Ekadashi yesterday. Prabhupada speaks in this chapter in 2 occasions about Krishna's character. About Krishna's character. Anyone knows about Krishna's character from this chapter? Someone remembers? Yes?
In spite of having so many faults, Krishna will only highlight the one small good quality which you have.
And Krishna says that, Prabhupada writes that the Lord accepts, and listen to this, if you're not going to get anything else from the class, at least get this, take it home. Someone asks you what the class about, you can say this point, okay? He says that Krishna accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. That's who Krishna is. Krishna accepts the least qualification of the living entity and he gives the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. His character, yeah? That's the standard of his character. My apologies for my Spanish accent. I've been speaking English for 30 years. Speak English better than Spanish. I think in English, but the accent doesn't go away somehow. I started too late, So, and earlier on in this chapter also, he speaks about the character of Krishna. He says that, that Krishna was begging pardon from his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, because he had gone to Vrindavan to hide from Kamsa, and he could not serve them. And Prabhupada writes that that's the most wonderful thing about his character, that Krishna will apologize, And Uddhava is reciting, is describing how Krishna, there is so many contradictions, apparent contradictions within Krishna. He's the supreme controller. Fear personified is fearful of him, yet still he runs away from Kamsa. But Krishna, all contradictions are reconciling Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is complete. So many things. Well, and this verse actually, it appears is important because even when Shukadeva Goswami, when he took birth, he ran away into the forest. He was born as a Brahmavadi, as an impersonalist. And Vyasadeva, he sent some of his disciples to the forest. And the disciples were reciting verses from the Bhagavatam. And Sukadeva Goswami heard these verses and he became attracted. And he came back to the ashram of Vyasadeva and he heard the Bhagavatam and became, the speaker of the Bhagavatam. We hear the Bhagavatam through him. And what verses did he hear? There was 2 verses mainly. And one of them was describing Krishna's sweetness, and the other one was describing Krishna's mercy. And it's this, aho bakijam stanakala kutam. So just by hearing about the sweet, and in these previous verses, if you go through the verses carefully, you will see that Uddhava is also describing different aspects of Krishna, like his sweetness, his power, his mercy. The same thing is running through this verse, that he is actually, giving mercy even to the demons. So this should give us hope, right? There is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel, right? Despite Maya is very expert at discouraging us, as making us think that we, we're a lost case. All these desires, they're not going to go away. They're not these anarthas are so hard, so many years still. But Krishna is not paying attention to the anarthas. Krishna is paying attention to our effort. Krishna is paying attention to our eagerness to hear about him. And we express our sincerity to give up those anarthas by how much we want to become absorbed. By coming to the Srimad Bhagavatam class every day. It's a sacrifice. But when we hear the Bhagavatam on a daily basis, it becomes part of our lives. And the Bhagavatam, I find that by hearing the Bhagavatam constantly, daily, it comes like a voice. Prabhupada's purport comes with it's like a voice. And you hear that voice, and I'll dare to say that it's just Prabhupada's voice, it's Krishna's voice. Krishna told Prabhupada that, Prabhupada said that Krishna had dictated these books. We're hearing Krishna's direct voice through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And when those words, which, like the Bhagavatam itself declares that the words of the Bhagavatam, they're carrying the saffron particles of Krishna's lotus feet. When they enter the heart, that removes all the dirt accumulated from lifetimes. And not only that, it makes us happy. You want to be happy in life? You know what the solution is? Apart from chanting Hare Krishna, of course, is to read Prabhupada's books daily. And if you read them in the association of the devotees, even more. This experience of absorption in the Lord was manifested also by Prabhupada. In 1967, the devotees were in New Jagannath Puri. I believe that temple was in San Francisco, I'm not sure, correct? Yeah. Berkeley, okay. So this is in Prabhupada Lilamrita. Berkeley or something like Prabhupada something. Anyway, it was somewhere in the West Coast. It was one of the early temples. And Prabhupada on one occasion was asked a question by Govinda Dasi. And it was in regards to how Lord Chaitanya, he felt unconscious in remembrance of Krishna, in feelings of separation of the Lord. He fell in the ocean. And Prabhupada said that, oh, this is a very nice question. And then he became silent. He became silent for a minute. And the whole room became very, very peaceful and very still. And after a long pause of a minute, he grabbed his kartals to chant. And again he went like, And he closed his eyes again. And another minute passed. And another minute passed. And after 4.5 minutes, Prabhupada came back, and he began to chant, Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. And the devotees understood that Prabhupada had gone into this deep meditation, deep absorption in the Lord. So these are the examples of the pure devotees, and this is our goal. When we're chanting our japa, and when we're carrying out our daily activities, we should remember the Lord. He Radhe Brajade Vike Chalalite He Nanda Suna Kuto Sigo Vardhana Kalpapadatale Kalindivane Kuto Goshanta Titi Sarvato Brajapure Vande Rupa Sanatana Raguyugo Sijiva Gopalako. Prabhupada explained that the residents of the 6 Goswamis, they were constantly absorbed in thought of Krishna. But they were never thinking that they had attained Krishna. They were never thinking that, I am with Krishna. Prabhupada said that it's not like, oh yeah, I attained Krishna consciousness, job finished, No. The more actually we learn about Krishna, the more absorbed we become in Krishna, the more we feel unqualified. The further he seems to appear. Do you have that experience? As time goes on in Krishna consciousness, that Krishna seems to be further away? Is it only me? Anyone has that experience? That it's so, I'm so rotten and so fallen, and Krishna is so wonderful. But at the same time, we have that hope that Krishna is very merciful. A hope, what is, like this verse is saying that, Kamvada Yalum Sharanam Brayamai. How can I take shelter on one more merciful than Him? He will give His mercy. But when He gives His mercy, that's up to Him. We cannot force Him. But we must have that conviction that despite whatever is going on in our lives right now, either good or bad, it's all good. It's actually all good. It's Krishna's special medicine. It's Krishna's special treatment for us. And the success of our lives lies in how much we are taking shelter of Krishna. If whatever situation we are in right now appears to be very unfavorable, but that's actually forcing me to take shelter of Krishna, then I am getting Krishna's mercy. It's all good. We're hearing these prayers of Pingala. I think Tara Prabhu mentioned it in the class, when he gave class, but it's so wonderful that she's praying that, I was so attached to so many things, but Krishna put me through I'm paraphrasing, such a beautiful verse, I wish I could just recite it, but Krishna put me through such a torment, such a difficulty, and now I have become detached. So therefore, I understand that I am the most fortunate. I am the most fortunate, despite that he gave me all this trouble. So this is which we could say like a samskara, like an axiomatic truth that we have to, embed in our consciousness. And it's that Krishna is the most merciful, and Krishna is the ultimate shelter. And that Krishna will never let us down. Another example of this same absorption in Krishna, with the same verse from Uddhava's remembrance, when Gadadhar Pandit when Mukunda Datta took Gadadhar Pandit to see Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And Gadadhar Pandit had Mukunda Datta had told Gadadhar Pandit that I want to take you to see this Mahabhagavat. And when they arrived, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was dressed up, he had oil in his hair, long hair, he had makeup, he was chewing betel, He has spittoons around him, golden spittoons. Is that how you say spittoon or spittoon? I always get confused. Spittoons, right? When you spit. He have, silk cloth. And Gadadhar Pandit became bewildered. He thought he looks like a bogey, like a sense gratifier. And Mukunda Datta could understand Gadadhar Pandit's mind. And what verse he recite? Aho vakijam stanakala kutang. He said, how can I take shelter of one more merciful than him? And immediately the Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this verse. He fell from his seat and he just ripped his cloth upon him. How I didn't get his mercy. All these demons got the mercy and I didn't get it. And this is the same sentiment that Uddhava is expressing in this verse today. That the demons were more lucky because they saw Krishna face to face. Arjuna was behind. Arjuna could see him only from behind. But, the devotees were seeing him. And previous Uddhava is also describing how just by the glance, by Krishna glancing at all the soldiers, they were getting purified just by looking at them. And the demons, they attain liberation because by seeing Krishna, just a tiny little bit of love and attraction, awakening in their hearts. And just by that, were promoted to Vaikuntha. So this is the Lord whom we worship. And we access the Lord through the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shri Krishna Parivartita. Sanatana Goswami, also in his Krishna Lila Stava, which is also a collection of prayers, remembering Krishna, just in the same way. All this he is actually praising the Srimad Bhagavatam as well. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidvanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. Srimad Bhagavatam, oh my supreme, all the life of all the devotees, oh the life air of the devotees, oh Supreme Master, you are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is the exact image of Sri Krishna. And when we read the Bhagavatam with that understanding, it's a different matter. Jiva Goswami, he says that we should read the Bhagavatam like a lover reads a message from his or her beloved. He's not saying he's waiting. Finally I get the letter and I open it with such anticipation. What is telling me? Reading with that eagerness. And that eagerness we only can get through the association of the Bhagavats, those people who have that attraction. And we're having access to them through Srila Prabhupada, through the devotees, and the very people, the very devotees who are appearing in the Bhagavatam. We have the example of Uddhava. So far, and in this third canto, we're getting some glimpse even of the Rasa Lila. Nothing is going to be said anymore of Krishna's pastimes until the 10th canto. This section is so special. So special. And this, and all the verses are yet to come, but so far, we heard about Uddhava, about Arjuna's remembrance. We heard about Bhishmadev. Bhishmadev was also like wanting to die, wanted to see Krishna as Parthasarathi. He wanted to see Krishna in that violent form, with his hair covered in blood and dust and sweat, and angry at him. He had that rasa with him. That was his absorption. That was his want. And it's, it's described that Krishna's arrows were like the biting of a lover to the beloved. Bhishma's arrows on Krishna, Arjuna was feeling those arrows as a lover feels the biting of his or her beloved. That was the exchange of love they have. And Krishna came at the departure of Bhishmadev. We heard of Uttara, we heard of Kunti. They are all expressing that deep affection for Krishna. All the things that you did for us. Yudhishthira, the Pandavas. And if we think and we contemplate in our own lives, we can remember so many things Krishna did for us. The fact that we're here is a miracle, isn't it? All the way from Spain, or from wherever, Australia or America or you end up living in Sridham Mayapur, coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class on a daily basis, having Mangalarti, association of the Vaishnavas, and the opportunity to do some service. Krishna's unlimited kindness. Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful class. Just a quick question. So the demons that were killed by Krishna, they attained Brahma Jyoti.
Not all of them. Some of them attain, the demons were killed by Krishna and developed some attraction for him, they attained to Vaikuntha. And those like, I believe, Kamsa, for example, or Shishupal, I think Shishupal also, they attain Brahma Jyoti.
Why the difference, and why did Putana receive such a mercy as to go back to Goloka Vrindavan?
Sorry, by seeing Krishna's face, she became somehow charmed. And that attraction, as Krishna, in a personal form, that make her eligible to go back to Vaikuntha. And in fact, she went to Goloka. Rameshwara Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. First of all, thank you for that wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
It's we were just commenting what a life it is to be a teacher of Krishna consciousness. What a life. So thank you.
Thank you.
But Uddhava is expressing for our benefit this great concern that these demons got to see Krishna at the moment of death. And when we die, there are so many descriptions of the pain and the falling apart of the mind, the breakdown of our attention and consciousness. And it makes, and I'm just wondering, if a devotee is not able, because of illness or whatever, lack of association at that moment, we know that Krishna sustains us and carries what we lack. Have you read something about that kind of situation where a devotee is incapable of his mind of functioning or remembering?
Yes, and there is a quote directly from Prabhupada. I may be able to find it, but anyway, I'll speak while I'm looking for it, where he says that even if one is unable to remember him at the time of death, Krishna will remember him. It's a direct quote, which I can maybe find after the class because I don't want to just, he will come. So this is the point, and we're getting across today from these verses that Krishna's mercy is unlimited. There was one time, you may know better than me, Prabhu, because you were contemporary with these things, but I heard this pastime from, I don't remember, maybe Mother Narayani related the pastime. In the pastime, there was this Prabhupada servant, okay? He was a musician. He became a little bitter because he was kind of more or less blaming Srila Prabhupada for ruining his musical career, and he went away. During Prabhupada's times, Prabhupada was still present. And he was blaspheming even Prabhupada, which is something that hardly anyone does, right? People, So he was in New York, and he would come with long hair, and he was breaking every principle and everything. And then Prabhupada came, and he was there, And Prabhupada said, "Can you cook for me?" And all the devotees were like, "Prabhupada, he's not following anything." And Prabhupada said, "Shut up," And he was stunned. He couldn't believe it. And Prabhupada said, "Could you cook for me?" Yes. Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Janita Gaura Premanande.